Hi, good day, and I'm going to do a pretty picture show today, which is just going through a bunch of the graphics which we have. Let's start with what's been there a long time, and then go on to some stuff which is recently being revised or updated or restored. Let's go over to something like, let's go over to bacteria, and you'll notice you have a little icon here, so if you click that, you chicken over and you can see what your where your bacteria are, and down below you can go and take a look at different samples, and then it redraws it, etc. So that's item number one, which is being able to view it by what sample where you are on the curve, and again you can go and change it into, instead of using the log values, you could go over and change it to percentile or percentage reported and in known bacteria. So those two is the same curve. The thing that's different is the scale here. Is here we have just the percentage of all of the bacteria. You see a few people have a unbelievably high amount of lactobacillus. Those are probably not an indicator of a healthy person. Other people have a very small amount. Here I have a very low amount there. And then again, log values, which tend to transform the data into almost a straight line. And then we have the low values and the high values, where things get statistically strange enough that you know something is happening. That is the data itself is speaking, not clinical studies. Keyword. There's a difference between the two, but when the data says something is wrong, definitely is wrong. The value of clinical concern could actually be lower. This is where it stinks to the high heavens. Okay, so that's the basic one. Now let's go over to Explore, and let's go over to frequency bacteria reported there. You notice right here we have a little button here. Here we of course have the list for my sample, which I can sort again it by individual sample, so I can go and double click to get the highest number. Things like infant premature is something which probably could be ignored. I go over to 5, my latest sample, and I see a couple of things which are there. Usually I would say values over significantly above 60 are concerned, usually 70. However, let's go over to plot over time, and what we do is we have all of the bacteria, in fact so many that it gets a little bit overwhelming. So what I'm going to do is, because I double process a lot of them through other providers, I'm going to reduce it down to just the bottle site ones, which just takes a few seconds. Bomb site, keep it in there. Don't have that one, don't have that one, don't have that one, don't have that. So the first pass is I'm going to just select all the biome site ones, which gives me a small one, and then I go and select the conditions, view charts, opens up in a new window, and you can see how things go, and the thing which I was high in, you can actually see that there is bacteria shift going in that direction. It was high down, but the numbers were so low that it's not a concern, because we are matching the bacteria which are usually seen. When it gets up to 80 or 90, it's concerned. Let's go through and go through a couple of other things which may apply to me. This is my own data. Let's go down. We don't have chronic fatigue syndrome. Let's take a look at hypertension, since that has shown up recently in terms of medical reviews. And voila! What we see is the values were low, and now they have taken up, and coincidental with the increase of values, guess what? I have developed moderate hypertension, but what that does tell me is that I can actually take a look at the bacteria which causes hypertension for me specifically. So that's one example. That's sort of a sweet one. And see if there's anything else. I could do something like gingivitis. Gingivitis, basically all the values to show are low. We can do other things, irritable bowel syndrome, and all my numbers are low, don't have IBS, etc. So that's past number one. You can go through them. There's something like 90 items there, and you can go and see which one there. The list is only things which are available from the data source, which is from Genome Repo, which has 72,000 microbiome samples on it. Second way is going over to PubMed studies. And select there, click at the bottom, and voila, we have things like acne, etc. So let's go down and take a look at a couple of things. Let's first start with hypertension. Right there. It goes up and goes down. So we have a disagreement, and there is an important reason. The GM one is being based on frequency of detection of certain groups of bacteria, clusters of bacteria, which are not as often or more often detected, which tends to reflect over into the population. Here we are going clinical studies where there is a positive or negative shift on the average between population. Different mechanism, you could get some things the same, but you don't have it as sensitive. The GM Repro has generally more bacteria listed with it and probably stronger statistics to it. So that's one thing. Let's go down and take a look at, let's see, for chronic fatigue syndrome. I did have a flare, not sure if the data covers the period. So it doesn't cover the period. I can go back and do it later with the other set of samples. So, and that I will do, which will just be ubiome samples for that case. We want to try keeping it from the same labs so we have consistency of what bacteria are being detected. And we have the third one is symptoms by Citizen Science, which is from all of the uploads you guys have done to the site. And we see general fatigue. So general fatigue is going up. It's still not of concern, but I have noticed it a bit, and the reason I've noticed it a bit is generally as a byproduct of vaccination, since that's what seems to have triggered it. So let's go down and take a look at some of the other things. Again, here we have a massive list of several hundred things. You have to sort your way through it. So let's try ME/CFS with IBS, and there down low, and then it's gone up, which again suggests that my immune system is being jacked around a bit by the old friendly vaccination, which will probably settle down and return to normal. And somewhere in here we have tons and tons of things. Let's check mail just for the fun of it. Okay, and so we have a 50%. Some of the relationships are strong, some of them are not. Take it with a grain of salt. Frequently the data is sparse. Okay, and then the last one is by ratio. I put the word discredited on it because reading latest 2021 studies, there's greater and greater concern that the ratios actually have no real clinical or research values to them. They're an easy number to compute before 16S test came along, and today you can compute them, but we're finding that they don't have the benefits which was wished for. So there we see my ratio of versus bacteriotes, and up to 2.5 coming back down. And that one ratio, also notice that because cystic prevotella is a relatively small number, the ratio tends to be pretty small numbers between them. So that's pass one. I'm going to go back to, and I'm going to actually reload the page. And what I'm going to do is just do my ubiome samples. Again, ideally you want to keep the same provisioning, and just walk down, click the list. Mostly probably don't have so many items to click, so you probably have an easier time. Okay, so we have everything down there. I'll go and do things we do things in medical conditions. Let's do a view chart. And let's go down and take a look at, well, let's do autism spectrum, and there we have it. So actually this is interesting because during this period of time when I was doing regular tests was when I was going through a chronic fatigue relapse, and we can sort of see autism-like things, which means inattention, ignoring, even understanding difficulties, went up there very nicely with that. Okay, now let's go down to where we don't have there. Let's go down and take a look at hypertension. And we notice that the numbers are much lower than the other chart. Again, when the chronic fatigue flare happened, I was actively fighting infections, probably will be reactivated, whatever, and we see that hypertension dimension again peaked at that time. Then as my recovery happened, things became normal again, and I could go in and take a look at other things and see autoimmune diseases. Nothing except things actually went in the opposite direction during it. And again, just illustration, does not predictive, not prognostic. It just shows things that could be informative to see if a trend is happening with you, and if it is, a confirmed treatment is working, or something else has happened and things are going worse. Okay, so now we have here more prone to rose acne, which is, well, that's chronic fatigue syndrome. And we have a little beep here during the flare, so there's some correspondence, and then it's sort of moved up, so numbers are not shocking. Let's go and do one more down to hypertension, and there we have actually the opposite pattern, which is that the bacteria associated with who has shifts which are associated with shifts could be more or less, not necessarily increase. When I say shifts, it could mean a decrease of numbers as well. Here we again have my relapse and recovery showing a very distinctive pattern, showing that, hey, wait a minute, my microbiome was definitely jumping around, and hypertension was part of the scenario. And in some ways it's not surprising, because often with hypertension you have POTS happening, as in problems maintaining blood pressure, and that could actually be an explanation there. And let's go back and go on, and let's look at citizen science for symptoms. And we have, oh yes, 80. We really spiked during the chronic fatigue symptom flare period, and then came back to normal. Still was highest at the end. It took me time to fully recover. I was functionally recovered, but it took time to get fully recovered. Let's go down, and let's take a look at expressing thoughts. Little there. Was reasonably good expressing thoughts during that period of time. Let's take a look at chronic fatigue syndrome. Again, we have the peak there, a bit of a rebound, bounce to 4, and then I started heading back down towards the prior level where I was in full remission. Okay, so, and of course we go over to the last one to complete our tour of pretty pictures and chart. And there we see how the ratio actually reverses itself from being greater than 1 to -1, and the chronic fatigue syndrome was a factor here. Everyone short a significant spike when chronic fatigue flare happened, which would imply that the pivotal soared as part of the relapse and then settled down and started heading down. Okay, so basically this is the pretty picture tour of microbiome prescription. You have literally about 300 or more charts. Actually, technically, probably have somewhere about 1,500 different pretty pictures or charts you can look at. There's about 250 different charts by symptoms. Go use the first one to filter by highest priority to find which ones you probably should take a look at, and then go and see what the patterns are. So that's about it. Enjoy and look at pretty pictures until the numbers for a change.